Garden Report is brought to you by Prize Picks and the Game Time app.
Hey, Bobby Manning here. Welcome to a practice edition of the Garden Report. Noah Dalzell alongside, and we're just over 24 hours from ring night, banner night, Celtics, Knicks, a ton to look forward to tomorrow at TD Garden as the 24-25 season finally begins. We'll see who the Celtics end up going with in the starting lineup. I probably imagine it's going to be Al Horford, but we've kicked around different units that could go there. Luke Cornett possibly being part of that. And the Knicks got their starting five ready to go. Mitchell Robinson obviously out, and Precious Achiuwa, another depth center, going to be out for this game. So big environment, a lot of emotion, going to be a crazy crowd, and you're going up against maybe the biggest threat in the league to you in this opening game. What are you expecting from the atmosphere? What are you expecting from the game?
Yeah, I mean, the atmosphere is going to be crazy. You know, we saw preseason. I felt like that was a phenomenal preseason crowd, and this is banner night, so it's more than just the opening night, but I think they have a whole itinerary of things that are going to take place. They have, you know, the ring ceremony, they have a concert, so I think the whole city is going to be buzzing. And then it's weird because you have to kind of pivot and actually play a basketball game against a formidable opponent. So I think it'll be a great environment, a great atmosphere, and I would imagine this is one of those games that's going to like come down to the wire. Like, I feel like both teams are going to show out and compete, and I would be surprised if the Celtics laid a goose egg just based off of how they've showed out in these kinds of moments before and just everything they've been saying about tomorrow in practice.
Yeah, and in my mind, I look back to last year, Nuggets won on ring night. I feel like that's been a tricky spot for teams in the past, you know, without looking too deep into it. And that's probably the biggest thing that could throw the Celtics off here is getting too caught up in the pregame, maybe throws off your routine a little bit, get off to a slow start. This is where I think that hangover effect, which we haven't felt like is a thing for them yet, could actually come into play, especially since you're going against a team that's just trying to get the game going and jumps right into it. Now, the Knicks didn't look amazing during the preseason to me.
No.
Towns didn't shoot great. It's a weird thing going on with Mikal Bridges' shot right now. So they have some guys coming into this game cold from three at the very least. But 5 out's going to be a challenge playing against that. There's obviously a physicality factor. Brunson is such a menacing guy to slow down. So this is going to be a challenge. I can't imagine this not being a close game.
Yeah, I mean, I'm super excited that this is the matchup because I think I've said this before, but I felt like the opening night should have been against somebody the Celtics have more history with. And then this trade happened, and there's all this buzz around this team. And so I'm actually really glad that we get to see them in Boston against the defending champs early on. And like you said, you know, I've been seeing stuff out of, you know, I haven't been able to sit down and watch the full Knicks preseason games, but Mikal Bridges' shot looks very different. And I know we've spent a lot of time here, probably too much time discussing Tatum's shot, but that seems to be one where you just look at it and right away it seems off. So you wonder if that's going to be a storyline for New York, but there's so many things that are going to come to a head here. And I think maybe some of what you're referring to as far as like, you know, teams have struggled in the past is that the Celtics have had a history of like when they retire jerseys and when they have these kind of like big nights that they've lost those games. And so I remember in recent years there's been a couple of jersey retirements where like the outcome of the game was not what people were hoping for.
Did they lose the Pierce one? They lost the Garnett one for sure.
And so yeah, so you just want to make sure that people, like, as much as you can to not spoil that night. But honestly, like, I bought my dad and my brother tickets to that game because I feel like it can't really be spoiled. You know, like, playoff games, you spend all this money, you go, and then they lose and everybody's miserable. But even if they lose tomorrow, I think, like, at the end of the day, this is the night where the banner goes up and everybody gets their rings. And it's going to be a special night for Boston, regardless of what happens in this regular season game ultimately.
And Mazzulla alluded to them feeling no pressure today and extended back and forth during practice here. Here's what he had to say about the expectations that they're handling going into this game and this year.
But what kind of pressure do you feel to kind of maximize this opportunity that you have with this group?
Zero, no pressure. We're all going to be dead soon, and it really doesn't matter anymore, so there's zero pressure. You're either going to win or you're not. And when you win, you try to forget about it a week later, and when you lose, you try to forget about it a week later. And so it's not pressure, it's an opportunity. And we have an opportunity here over the next few years, however long we're together. We've said this in the past, like, we have an opportunity to carry the organization forward, to double down on the tradition and the history of what this organization has. And what else would you expect than someone expecting you to win all the time? I wouldn't want someone expecting me to lose all the time. That would be debilitating. So we have an expectation to win. We have great character, great talent, and you know, we just have to work to maximize that, and we're going to rely on the players to do that.
So probably a vintage Joe moment there. It makes you feel good, certainly, at least that's flowing from the top down, their approach to that. is that actually going to be able to resonate with these guys? Because there is some pressure that they're playing with this year to repeat.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's semantics a little bit. Like, what is pressure is kind of what he was saying. And even he caught himself using the word pressure to describe themselves, and he was like, it's more internal things. I think what he's trying to say is that he's not going to let, like, media narratives infiltrate the locker room or impact how guys feel about themselves. And also, I think he made a really salient point. At the end of the day, this is a basketball game. And he brought up, like, surgeons and things. And I think about this sometimes because I think for most people, they feel a lot of pressure in their jobs. They feel a lot of stress, whether they're basketball players or they work regular 9-to-5s. And it's like, for most of the population, there really isn't, like, real pressure on what they're doing. And I think that he just wants to communicate, like, at the end of the day, it's just basketball. It's not like we're out here saving people's lives or, like, risking people's lives. And I think it's a good lesson for everybody to remember. And certainly for the players who might feel pressure internally to get that message from the person who's running the team, like, that seems like it could only be a positive thing.
So who are you going with opening night, Kornet, Horford for this matchup?
I didn't think you were going to go there. I thought you were going to ask who am I going for winning the game.
You can say that too if you want.
I think Al's going to start this game. I think I wouldn't be stunned just because we have some foreshadowing that it could go either way, but I would imagine Al Horford gets the start. But I think when we look at the box score, I think they're going to probably play pretty similar minutes. They're not going to want to front load Al in October. As much as they want to win tomorrow, I'm sure they do, like, they're not going to put heavy minutes on Al. So I think beyond, like, who's going to actually start, I would imagine both guys get heavy minutes tomorrow, or they split those minutes.
Horford said he's ready to go despite the abbreviated preseason, only one appearance for him. Joe earlier last week said they'll go with both in that spot. So that's something to watch for on the Celtics side. Knicks, of course, again, shorthanded at center. Towns, Jericho, Sims, the only active roster centers they have for this game. So something to watch for on their side as well, that center matchup. And it all gets started around 7 o'clock. I'd have to imagine we have a banner ceremony stream going, so stay tuned for that. Stay tuned for post-game, of course, coverage of a great game. Going to be a great night in Boston tomorrow night. Banner raising around 7 o'clock, tip-off at 7:30, the first game of the NBA season, Celtics, Knicks, and we'll have coverage of that and the rest of the year here on CLNS Media, powered by Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com, download the Prize Picks app, use code CLNS, and get a $50 bonus instantly when you play a $5 lineup. And Anthony Edwards Square for free right after Celtics Knicks. It's going to be Lakers Wolves tomorrow. All he needs is more than 0.5 for his card to hit in your lineup. So half the battle there if you're running a two-player lineup there. So go check that out. Code CLNS, get your Edwards Square for tomorrow. And Game Time, if you want to get in the building, it's going to be a tough ticket, but Game Time has them. Go over there and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase there for that and all the rest of the Celtics games this season. Terms apply. That's Game Time, code CLNS for Noah Dalzell. I'm Bobby Manning. We'll see you tomorrow night at TD Garden.